Hi beautiful souls, my name is Anne from appletreecoach.com. As promised in a previous video, today I would like to take you behind the scenes and show you how I actually do a soul realignment reading. As my aim is always to demystify and simplify spirituality in a way that actually makes sense to our analytical mind. Okay, so by now you are familiar that for a soul reading, the information resides in the Akashic Records. Now, if you still feel uncomfortable with this term, I completely get it, because when I first came across it, it just felt way too spiritual, too woo-woo and exotic and intimidating for me. So let's use a 21st century, more friendlier term, called it an energetic database, because that's essentially what it is. And every single one of us have a file within this database which contains all the human life experiences and choices we have made as an eternal spiritual being. Now, the question obviously comes up as to how do we actually access this energetic database, and how do we know we are accessing the information accurately? Now, the answer resides in the attunement process that we need to go through. Now, think of attunement process as like tuning into a radio station. You know, if you want to listen to a specific radio station, we actually need to turn to find that specific frequency in our radio, so then we can receive the signals from that radio station. So this is exactly what we do in the attunement process. As a soul realignment practitioner, we receive two attunements. The first one is a distant attunement that we receive from our teacher and GIS. And the second one is a self-attunement that we do over 7 consecutive days. And that is essentially watching a video over 7 days, which consists of a lot of sacred geometry shapes and with embedded soundtracks in it. So once we are done with this process, we are now really good to go. Okay, so step 2 is, how do I actually do a full reading from beginning to end? So the starting point is when I receive the birth details from the client, and the reason why I need that information is because it serves 2 purposes. Firstly, it tells me I've got the permission from the client to access his or her record on their behalf. And second thing is, it allows me to actually locate their file within this vast database. So now, once I've received this information, I am able to start doing the reading. So before I start the reading, I do a little ritual, okay? So I know I'm gonna disappoint some of you guys who are expecting an extensive, elaborate and mystical ritual process. But the thing is, it's actually really, really simple and not that intimidating. It is a very simple mental visualization that I do. So what I do is I will close my eyes and imagine myself walking into a lift. I'm not sure if you've heard the term that we are all multi-dimensional beings. And what you see right here, my body is only the 3rd dimension, and the energetic database or Akashic Records resides in the 5th dimension, and that's where we are going to get the information. So inside the lift, I'm already on level 3, and I will press the button to 5, and I will see the lift going up to 4, 5, and it stops. And then the door of the lift will open, and I will walk out of the lift, and in front of me I will see a big computer screen, and I will walk to the screen. I will sit down on the chair in front of the computer screen, and that's where I can start and that's when I open my eyes and start the process of researching and digging for the information that I need for the reading. Okay, now, when it comes to intuitive readings, what you need to know is that sometimes if the practitioner is feeling very distracted or tired or feeling low, or maybe the ego is interfering by coming up with its own interpretations of the information, then the information might be quite compromised. So NG has really come up with a very genius way of dealing with this by using a tool that allows us to cross-check the information, intuitive information that comes through. Okay, now I'm sure you are dying to know what this tool is, isn't it? So let me show you. Here it is. This is the tool that we use to cross-check the information. This is called a pendulum. It is essentially a weight attached to a string, okay? But don't give too much power to a pendulum, okay? It only moves due to as a response to the nerve impulse coming from our fingertips. So this is how it works. Because of the way the pendulum is designed, it is very sensitive to pick up very minute movements. So when the information comes through the subconscious mind via the Akashic Records, then the information will travel through my body to my fingertips as nerve impulses. So the pendulum will pick it up and will give me an answer. Now obviously, before we use the pendulum, we actually need to program it. What this means is that we actually need to find out what does it mean for this pendulum when it's a yes or a no or maybe answer. So this is how we program it. It's really simple. You just ask, show me a yes. As you can see, mine starts going in circles. Now show me what a no look like. And it swings left to right. Show me how a maybe or unsure look like. As you can see, it stops and trembles a little bit. Now once you program a pendulum, then it is set for life. You don't have to do it ever again, okay? Which means whenever you use this pendulum, it will always give you the same movements for the same equivalent, the answers, okay? Okay, now, questions. So, the beauty of this modality is that it actually gives us some very basic foundational questions or protocols that we use to extract the basic building blocks for our reading. Because what you need to know about reading the Akashic Records is that it is such a vast, massive database, and you can really get lost in it. So, and there are two essential elements that are needed for getting accurate and relevant information. The first element is you need to be very specific in your question. And the second element is that you need to be very clear as to what you are asking and what answer you are actually expecting. The kind of answers that can come through. So you are able to assess whether it is a valid answer or not. And therefore, a majority of our training as a practitioner is around actually getting specific and clear as to what we are asking and understanding exactly what we are asking and what we are expecting as the result. Okay, so once we got all these building blocks, I see them as like clues, or maybe like, especially when it comes to negative patterns, these are the symptoms. And I was just telling some people recently that I really feel like an archaeologist of the human souls, because essentially what I do is I go into the file and I dig for all the relevant information that the soul needed to be revealed and healed at this moment in time. And once we got these basic building blocks, obviously, especially for the negative patterns we're looking at, because these are essentially symptoms that we are perpetuating, okay? Patterns we are perpetuating throughout, even now. That's why it's still in the record. So what we need to do is we actually need to find out what the root cause of these patterns, and we then have to go and do the whole research around. It's like a detective coming up with, different hypotheses, testing it, and coming up with a coherent and logical story as to how all these patterns and symptoms fit in together and what are the causes. And the power of this work really, really resides in understanding and uncovering the root cause for the client. It's like, when you get some symptoms, when you are sick and you start to sort of think of the worst case scenario until you actually go to the doctor and get confirmed it's actually just a dehydration that causes your severe migraine, or you just only just having a flu that gave you all these chest tightness. You're not having a heart attack or a brain tumor or something like that, okay? So that is what really helps for my clients as well, after knowing the root cause for what they are experiencing and how they're experiencing their life. It gives them freedom and a huge sense of relief as to now that they can really let go of those sort of fear or ungroundedness, that which had like no base, but it just comes up, those thoughts or emotions just keep on popping up that prevent them from living the life they want to live. And by knowing exactly the root causes, which, can come from a past lifetime, then they know, it's actually not really true in this life, it's got no basis in this life. And once they know the reason why they're feeling that way, they're able to let go. They're able to make new choices. Okay, so after I've got the story, then I am able to do the clearing work. So when it comes to energetic clearing or energy work, the intention is the most important element. And the clearing is basically an intentional prayer that I do inside the client's record, intending to wipe clean those negative patterns so my client can restart again, can make new patterns. Obviously, it is temporary because we live in a third-dimensional world. In order to eliminate a pattern permanently, we also, in addition to clearing, we also have to do take actual physical actions, which is really, really important that I cannot stress enough. Okay. Now, how long does it actually take for me to prepare a reading and do the reading? So for me, it takes around 2 hours because doing all the research, the clearing, I also like to write everything down again because I'm a very methodical, thorough person, and I like to be very detailed. I don't want to miss out any information during the call with the client, so I love to write it out, highlight key information, and give a think as to how the patterns might show up in my client's life and what are the possible actions that they can take to eliminate those patterns. So that's why it takes quite a bit of time for me, but it's really a labor of love for me, because when the client actually validates the information, when I actually see all the transformations in their lives after the reading, it makes everything so worthwhile. All the efforts just are worth it. So, okay, I think this is the end of this video. I hope you are now a bit more clear as to how Soul Realignment reading is actually done, and that is not as intimidating as you might have thought. And in the next video, I would like to share about some real-life client examples and how the patterns are actually showing up and how they can actually eliminate, and what kind of transformation has happened in their lives. So stay tuned. Thank you so much. See you next time.